Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and we're going to be looking at all of the white cards today. We've already done the gold cards, and then we'll do blue, black, red, green, and artifacts and lands. As a quick note, I am doing this live on Twitch, just like I did last time. You can see Twitch chat is voting right now. They have the ability to click on the screen and share what they think their grade should be, so that you can kind of see what chat thinks versus me. Chat will be right up above me when they do messages and stuff like that. As a quick note, I am doing this set review ever so slightly early. WotC did not give us the full set the day that I'm recording this, and so we're actually missing like 1 or 2 cards per color. I can't imagine those are going to drastically change my opinions on cards, especially because I rate cards in a vacuum anyways. But as a result, white has 3 cards that I don't currently have access to. So we're actually going to start on card number 2. The 3 cards that we don't have, those will be at the end of the video. But let's get started with Angel of Destiny. Angel of Destiny is 3 white for a creature angel cleric at Mythic. It's a 2/6 with flying and double strike. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. It's triggered lifelink, which we used to have, but both you and your opponent get it. At the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 life or more than your starting life total, so 35 for our consideration, each player Angel of Destiny attacked this turn loses the game. This is interesting. So it's a 4/6 essentially flyer for 5. That's pretty good stats. That's pretty good stats. And when you attack the opponent, they gain that much life back, which means they don't really take any damage. You deal 4, they gain 4. You don't deal any damage, but you gain 4. And if you can get to 35, you just win the game. You just win the game if this attacked. Or sorry, it's every creature. It's every creature deals combat damage. So, yeah, this is weird. This is very, very, very weird, because you are dealing no damage. You have essentially fogged yourself. But if you can just get 15 life, which is 4 hits of just Angel of Destiny, but it could be your other creatures as well, you just win. But if they, in the intervening time, kill the angel, has anything happened? You know, I think chat is already on that's awful. Has anything happened? You gained just as much life as they gained. Right? So it's net 0. Unless they've been dealing a whole bunch of damage back to you, in which case I think you're just in a lot of trouble anyways. Their life stayed the same. Oh yeah, their life stayed the same. You gained life. Man, this card is hard to think about. I talked about this in the Twitch chat, which I guess you folks on YouTube won't see. This format's complicated. These cards are complicated as hell. There's a lot to go here. So your opponent's never moving their life total, but your life total is going up. Yeah, this card's just great. I think this card's just great. I don't think this getting removed is the saddest thing in the world. It just means that, oh no, you gained a bunch of life, their life total didn't move, they used a removal spell. I think this is quite good. I could see this getting overrated a little bit. I'm going to start at a B+, but I'm going to have to play this card to really figure it out. I'm going to have to see it played. It's going to be tricky. Black-white is the life gain deck, but let's start with a B+, and we'll see where it goes. Up next is Angel Heart Protector. Angel Heart Protector is 2 and a white for a creature human cleric at common. It's a 3/2. When Angel Heart Protector enters the battlefield, target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn. I don't really like this card that much. It's a 3/2 for 3. A creature getting indestructible until end of turn at sorcery speed is not that amazing of a bonus. It's a cleric, but here's the secret. Literally every humanoid sentient creature in this set is a cleric, wizard, warrior, or rogue. There's no other classes. The only thing that are not those classes are beasts and cats and mouses and spirits and stuff like that. So you're not picking this because you need clerics. You're playing this if you kind of failed to get clerics. You're playing this if you need a creature. It's for me a definition of a C-. It's a card that starts out in my sideboard and then, uh-oh, I don't have enough playables. Let me put it in. It's also like the first card on my list to cut from my deck if it happens to be there. So I think it's just a C-. You don't have to feel super bad if you play it, but you shouldn't try to play it. Up next is Archon of Ameria. Archon of Ameria is 2 and a white for a creature Archon at rare. It's a 2/3 flyer. A player can't cast more than one spell each turn. That includes you. Non-basic lands your opponent's control, doesn't include you, enter the battlefield tapped. It's a 2/3 flyer for 3, which is fine. Those stats are good. I played Chapelgeist a whole lot in Innistrad. It was very good. It was a spirit, but it was still very good. Each player can't cast more than one spell each turn. That is an effect that does not matter in Limited. Like, double spelling is nice, but it's like there's no double spell deck. You're not getting there, and you're hurting yourself equally. So that's basically flavor text. And non-basic lands enter your opponent's control, or enter non-basic lands entering your opponent's battlefield under their control, enter tapped, is not that big of a deal, especially because, as we'll see, most of the non-basic lands already enter tapped. So this is constructed only, but the stats, the 3 mana, the flying, and the 2/3 still make this like a C+. Like, you still play this card. You still play this card in every single white deck. Yeah, C+ for Archon of Ameria. It's going to be a sad rare to open, though. Up next is Archpriest of Iona. Archpriest of Iona is a single white mana for a creature human cleric at rare. It's a star 2. Its power is equal to the number of creatures in your party. So it counts itself, so it's a 1/2 at least. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, target creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying until end of turn. So this could be a 1/2, a 2/2, a 3/2, or a 4/2. And then at the beginning of combat, it could be a 5/3 flyer. Or something else. Could be a +1/+1 flyer. But as we talked about yesterday, I don't think full party is something that you're just going to casually get. I think it's going to be pretty tricky. So we are going to consider this. We're going to rate this as though we never have full party, and it will be nice if we get there. So this is a 1/2 for 1, which is not something I'm excited about. It's a 2/2 for 1, which it's been a very long time since Isamaru was a super good card. A 3/2 for 1, okay. Okay. And then a 4/2 for 1, sure, but again, I think full party is a little tiny bit Christmas landy. So this is another card where I'm just like, I think it's a C-. I think you cut it as much as possible. It is a cleric. It has the potential upside. If you are blue-white, and so you are trying to go full party, it can get up there. But I think this is in like the C- range. It's going to be a very bad rare to open, but I think it's fine. So let's go C- for Archpriest of Iona. Up next is Attended Healer. Attended Healer is 3 and a white for a creature core cleric at uncommon. It's a 2/3. Whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, create a 1/1 white cat creature token. Pay 2 and a white. Another target cleric gains lifelink until end of turn. So it's a 2/3 for 4, which I'm not a fan of. That's very expensive. But if you gain life, you get a 1/1. Okay. I'm never usually a fan of vanilla 1/1s on the ground being created. Like, they're a cute upside, but I'm not going over the moon for it. 2 and a white to give another cleric lifelink. Obviously, that's a big play for the black-white life gain cleric deck. So I think that's where kind of the power for this is going to be. I think this is going to be a card that you're pretty happy to have in the black-white life gain cleric deck. If you're in that deck, the 1/1's a bonus. It'll be a chump blocker. That's probably about it. If you're getting in for attacks, cool. You could attack with a ham sandwich in that situation and probably win if your 1/1s are getting in. But a chump blocker is cute. I'm not upset about it. It's just not a mechanic that I'm going to give extra rating to. Which I think, short aside here, I think a lot of people miss this in my set reviews frequently. I'm talking down about that mechanic. That doesn't mean that I'm saying the card is bad. I'm saying the card doesn't get extra ratings from me. I'm not pushing this card up because of that mechanic. I'm keeping it where it is. I'm also not pushing it down just because it has a nice to have mechanic there, right? So yeah, the two white to give another cleric lifelink is going to be pretty useful in that black-white deck. So if you are in the black-white life gain deck, this is like a B- for me. maybe even still just like a C+. But if you're in any other deck, this is like a C, maybe even a C-. So yeah, it depends where you are, C+, C, C-. It's not a satisfying grade, but it's a grade. Up next is Canyon Jerboa. Canyon Jerboa is 2 and a white for a creature mouse at uncommon. It's a 1/2 with landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. It's an anthem for your team a large number of turns. And of course, it's an anthem for your team when you want it. If you can't get a good attack in, don't play that land unless you have to. Hold that land back. Build your board. Next turn, play that land, get your anthem for the team. I think this card's quite good in a lot of the white decks. This is going to be great in a flying deck, antheming your flyers. This is going to be great in the aggro deck that has really kind of pounded down your opponent. I think this card's just really good. I think it's probably in the B- territory if you are in an aggressive deck. So I'm pretty happy with a B- on Canyon Jerboa. I think it's going to do some real work in those decks, and I think it's going to be a little bit of a skill tester. You know, in this set, you're going to have to think about when you put your lands down. Don't just put them down all willy-nilly. If you don't need that land, hold it back for the big anthem turn. So yeah, B- for Canyon Jerboa. I think it's quite good. Up next is Cliffhaven Sellsword. Cliffhaven Sellsword is 1 and a white for a creature core warrior at common. It's a 3/1 with vanilla flavor text. This is my favorite stats combination. I love 3/1s for 1 and a white. They're my favorite. They're obviously very aggro focused, but it's a 2-drop that trades up. This will trade with 3-drops. This will trade with some 4-drops. You know, we just saw a 4-drop that this would trade with. This does some work. I love 3/1s for 2. All of this talking up means that I'm going to give this card a C. As much as I love 3/1s for 2, they're not amazing cards, but I play a lot of them. It has a warrior class type, which will be a bonus. I think this is a warrior that you're not going to feel sad to play. This is one that you'll just put in most of your decks. So strong C for Cliffhaven Sellsword. Up next is Dauntless Unity. Dauntless Unity is 1 and a white for an instant at common. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. If this spell was kicked, those creatures get +2/+1 until end of turn instead. Kicker for 1 and a white. So 2 mana, anthem your team is an okay effect. It's not the best, but if you really go wide, you can play it. 2 white for +2/+1. We've seen that. I can't remember the exact name, but we've seen that multiple times. This is if you're go wide. If you are red, white, go wide, you'll play this spell and it'll do some work. And it's going to be in like the C range in that deck. Maybe C+ range. But if you are not go wide aggro, you just shouldn't play this card. Inspiring Charge, yeah. So be aware that this card is one of those cards where some decks will be happy to play this and other decks should never ever play this. So it's in like the C+, C, C-, D+ range. Up next is Disenchant. Disenchant is 1 and a white for an instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is sideboard only. I don't think you're ever going to main deck this card. It's just not useful. We'll talk about the artifacts and enchantments in this set. Sideboard in when you see it. I don't think there's any reason to include this in the main deck. This is a D+ because it's going to be good out of the sideboard when there is artifacts or enchantments that you need to blow up, but you should never have this in your main deck. D+. Up next is Ameria Captain. Ameria Captain is 3 and a white for a creature angel warrior at uncommon. It's a 1/1 flying vigilance. When Ameria Captain enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each creature in your party. 4 mana, 1/1 flying vigilance. Don't like, but it's a warrior, so it's always going to be a 4 mana 2/2 flying vigilance at least. Not a big fan of that. Not a big fan of a 4/4, or sorry, 4/4. Not a big fan of a 2/2 flying vigilance for 4. If we have that second counter, and I think the second party member is going to be pretty easy, especially in white, blue, and black, red. So if this is a 2/2, sorry, a 3/3 flying vigilance for 4, I think I'm pretty happy. I think that's fine. You know, I play 4 mana 3/2 flyers and I'm pretty happy those are snapping drakes. So a 4/4 or a 3/3 for 4 vigilance flyer is just a strict upgrade there. So I think this is pretty dang good. If you ever get that 3rd or 4th counter on this, it's going to be super good. Like the turn that you do play this on turn 4 after playing like a 1-drop cleric, a 2-drop rogue, a 3-drop wizard, and a 4-drop this is going to be extremely hard to come back from, which does make me think the party mechanic has the potential of being very snowbally. So I'll keep an eye on this. I think this is probably in like the B- range, assuming you build around it. But I think it is just going to be really tricky to get that full party effect out of it. But if you can get 2 counters on this reliably, I think it's a very good card. So B- for Ameria Captain. Up next is Ameria's Call. Ameria's Call is 4 white for a sorcery at Mythic. Create 2 4/4 white angel warrior creature tokens with flying. Non-angel creatures you control gain indestructible until your next turn. And on the other side, it's a land. Ameria Shattered Skyclave is a land at Mythic. When it ETBs, you can pay 3 life. If you don't, it enters tapped. So it's a bolt land. It's like a shock land, but it's a bolt land, and it taps for a single white mana. These are new in this set. You pick the side you want to play. You are either going to play this card, or you are going to play this card. You are not playing both. You are not playing one and then the other. You are only playing one and then the other. Or sorry, one or the other. And this is where we're going to have a whole lot of different things going on in this set. Because you can put this in your deck as a plains. You can just say, this is going to be a plains, this is forever going to be a plains, and if I happen to have 7 mana, if things happen to be going right for me, if I happen to top deck this late and I don't need a plains, well, look at that, I get 2 4/4 angels. So there's going to be an interesting discussion as to whether or not you count these as a spell, or if you count them as a land. I think the correct decision is to treat some of them as spells and some of them as lands. This one, for example, I think you treat as a land. It's going to be a land probably like 90% of the time. And then some games, it's going to be 2 4/4 angels, and that's going to be pretty cool. So yeah, all of these cards are going to be great. All of these cards are going to be high picks because they're essentially free in your deck, because they can just be lands. So don't undervalue these. I think there's been enough discussion about these on Twitter and whatnot that people are going to be very excited about them. So I think this card is like... These cards are also really hard to rate, because it's like, this is going to be the first pick. This is going to be the first pick in the pack. So is it an A? Well, it's going to be a plains the vast majority of the time. A plains is not an A. This spell is pretty dang good. That's an A, but the casting cost is high. So honestly, I don't know exactly how to grade these cards, and frankly, this is why grades suck, and if I had my way, grades would not exist, tier lists would not exist. We would simply discuss that this is a first pickable card that you'll be very happy to play, and it's going to have the versatility of being a land tons of the time and help you out with your land draws, and then sometimes it's going to be a very good card. So I give this card a 7-point B. That's my grade. That's my grade for the card. Up next is Farsight Adept. Farsight Adept is 2 and a white for a creature core wizard at common. It's a 3/3 when Farsight Adept enters the battlefield. You and target opponent each draw a card. Whoa! I don't like symmetrical draw. I don't like symmetrical draw when I pay 3 mana and my opponent gets the first chance to untap with full mana and use that extra card draw. Don't like it one bit. The trick here is this is probably one of the only white wizards. We can do a quick check on that just to be sure. Color white, type wizard. This is the only white wizard that is not rare. So this is tricky, because if you are trying to go for full party, this is one of the ways that you have to do it. Now, hopefully you're getting your blue wizards. So hopefully you still don't have to play this. But I think this is the uh-oh, I didn't get there kind of card. So this is a C- for me. This is the definition of C- for me. I don't want to play this card. I don't want to play it. If I have to, it is playable. But symmetrical draw is a downside on this ETB effect here. So I'm not super sold on it. So yeah. C- for me. Not a big fan of Farsight Adept. You'll find blue wizards. Don't play this one. Up next is Fearless Fledgling. Fearless Fledgling is 1 and a white for a creature griffin. That's a griffin? At uncommon, it's a 1/1, it's got landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Fearless Fledgling. It gains flying until end of turn. This is going to be one of those cards that I forget doesn't always fly, because in the art it is flying. So yeah, it's a 1/1 for 2, which I'm not happy about. But on turn 3, it's a 2/2 for 2, at which point, cool, we've got there, right? There we go. Vanilla test passed, and it flies that turn. And then it becomes a 3/3, a 4/4, a 5/5, a 6/6, and so on and so forth. So this is going to grow really well, and even when it stops being able to fly, because you just aren't drawing lands or you aren't playing your lands, it's going to get big, which means it's going to hang out on the ground, and then you do slam down that land and go, ha, my 5/5 is going to fly over this turn. You didn't expect that. Yeah, I think this card's quite good. It's going to do a lot of work in probably just every white deck, and it's going to do a lot of work in the green-white landfall deck. So yeah, I think this is a pretty high pick. I think this is possibly in the B- range. I don't think I'm going to go too much higher, because it's an awful top deck. You know, if you top deck this on turn 10, it's probably not going to get much bigger than a 2/2 or a 3/3. But if you play this on curve, it's going to be absolutely nutty and probably demand removal. So B- for this. I'm not going to go too much higher, because being a bad top deck is a pretty big negative to me. So B- for Fearless Fledgling. Up next is Felidar Retreat. Felidar Retreat is 3 and a white for an enchantment. At rare, it's got landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. Create a 2/2 white cat beast creature token, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. This reminds me of Citadel Siege and terrifies me. I think you probably just play this whenever. You play this on turn 4, but it's going to be even better on turn 5, where you play your 5th land, and either permanently pump your team or make a 2/2. If you are in any way a creature deck that is playing like more than one creature to the board, which should be most decks, this is going to get out of control. It's an enchantment, which means it's going to be harder to interact with. Your opponent should not be main decking those disenchants. They should be siding them in, which means game 1 you play this and you should just win with it. I think this is probably an I can't go A+. I don't give A+s to things that require other things to go on. But the other thing here is play magic, put down creatures, which is not hard. So I think this is a strong A. This is going to be very, very, very tough to deal with in limited. Strong A for Felidar Retreat. Up next is Journey to Oblivion, which stole its art from the unstable card, or unhinged card AWOL. Journey to Oblivion. Journey to Oblivion is 4 and a white for an enchantment at uncommon. When Journey to Oblivion enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Journey to Oblivion leaves the battlefield. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. At 5 mana, I'll play Oblivion Ring. I don't want to pay 5 mana, but I'll pay 5 mana for an Oblivion Ring. This without the party thing is like a B. And the fact that this could be 4 mana, 3 mana, 2 mana, 1 mana is fantastic. This is very strong, pretty much guaranteed premium removal. If you're in white, you really are probably going to have one party member, I think. Like, at least the vast majority of the time. And at 4 mana, this is just a very good card. At 3 mana, it's literally Oblivion Ring. Yeah, I think this is an A. I think this is an A. Don't let that 5 mana scare you. You know, like, I don't think the 5 mana is ever really that big of a downside. Like, where is 5 mana removal problematic? Like, when it's early in your hand, okay, well, you play your creatures out, and now it's not 5 mana anymore. Yeah, I think this is an A. I think this is going to be a very high pick. You're just going to pick bombs over this, and that's about it. And of course, some people will say, well, in this format, Oblivion Ring isn't as good. Up next is Kabira Outrider. Kabira Outrider is 3 and a white for a creature human warrior at common. It's a 3/3. When Kabira Outrider enters the battlefield, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature in your party. So this is solid. You don't have to worry about having full party here. It's a 3/3 for 4, which is a touch under the vanilla test, but when it ETBs, you can pump another creature +1/+1 at least, because it's a warrior, and potentially more. It's a hill giant. It's a fine card. If it didn't have that ETB effect, it would be like a C-. With that ETB effect and relevant creature type, it's like a C. a C. If you are in white, if you need a creature, here you go. If you have an embarrassment of riches and you have a bunch of great creatures, you can cut this, but it's just kind of a definition of a C here. Up next is Kabira Takedown. Kabira Takedown is 1 and a white for an instant at uncommon. Kabira Takedown deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. It's also a land. It's Kabira Plateau. It's a plains that enters tapped. It's not a plains. I'm going to say plains because I don't want to say it's a white mana. It's a white land, I guess. It's a white land that enters tapped. So yeah, Kabira Takedown, 1 and a white for... we've had this card before with various names. Sometimes it's red, sometimes it requires attacking or blocking. This is just a very good card. This is a double face card, so you're going to pick if you play this card, or if you play this card, you only get to play one of them, but it's your choice when you decide to play it. It's outflank-ish. It's mob rule, I want to say. There was a red one in Ixalan. Yeah, this is just good. Like, you're going to have creatures. This is going to be damage. This is interesting because this is one where you're probably going to play this side like 90% of the time. And then if it's, turn 2 and you desperately need your second land, cool, play this one. Yeah, so I think Kabira Takedown is like a B+. Apparently, we have lost... Cardboard Live is back. It's not back for me. Let me do a quick... Cardboard Live is back. All right, I'm going to have to remove Cardboard Live. I'm going to have to actually kill it. Set as overlay. All right. So now people should be able to vote again. Sorry for that on YouTube. We're having Twitch difficulties, but that's the way it goes. Yeah, so I think this is like a B. I think this is great removal. Maybe even a B+. It's not in the A range. A range for me is like unconditional, fantastic removal. And this isn't that because you do have to have a number of creatures. But again, the fact that it's a land as well, it just has super versatility. So this is like a B for me. And again, it's really hard to rate these because the fact that they are a land as well is massive versatility. You should probably be first picking this most of the time. So it's a B.12. Up next is Kitesail Cleric. Kitesail Cleric is a single white mana for a creature core cleric at uncommon. It's a 1/1. It's got kicker for 2 and a white. It's a flyer. When it ETBs, if it was kicked, tap up to 2 target creatures. I hate this card. I don't get why this card is an uncommon. I don't want a 1/1 flyer for 1. I don't want it. I don't want a 1/1 flyer for 4 that at sorcery speed taps 2 target creatures. Like Ardenvale Tactician is what people are going to think of, but that was an instant speed effect. That's why Ardenvale Tactician was so good. This seems awful. It's a cleric, so it's not a warrior. So it's not getting pumped up from all of your warrior red-white shenanigans. It's a cleric, so I guess it's helping your black-white cleric deck, but now you have to put equipment on this or auras on this. You have to get counters on this somehow, but you're not black-green. I don't like this card. I don't understand where it fits. My best guess is this is supposed to be like the red-white, put a bunch of equipment on it, and hope you win, which is not how I play limited Magic. There's never been a set where, maybe Theros, maybe original Theros. There's never been a set where I've been super excited to do that. So I think this is just a bad card. I don't understand why it's uncommon. I have this as like a C-. I'm going to prefer to not play this. Up next is Core Blademaster. Core Blademaster, it is 1 and a white for a creature core warrior at uncommon. It's a 1/1 with double strike. Equipped warriors you control have double strike. I'm never a fan of Fencing Ace. I don't like Fencing Ace, which is what this card is, other than the equipped warriors thing. And there's not that many equipment. We've taken a look at Scryfall, and there's not much equipment in this set. Most of it's uncommon. Some of it's in black. Some of it's in green. One is in green. One's in red. The white one's rare. I don't know that equipment is going to be something that you are just throwing around all willy-nilly like. So I'm not super stoked on Core Blademaster either. It reminds me of Fencing Ace, which I hated. I think people overrate this card, and then they play it, and then they successfully jam stuff on it, and they win a game, and they think it's amazing. And you just got lucky in that game. You're not always going to get lucky and do that and have your opponent not say, okay, I bounce it. Okay, I kill it. So I don't like core blademaster. I'm going to try to not play this. There's better warriors for me. There's better creatures for me. This is like a C-, I think. Up next, we've got Core Celebrant. Core Celebrant is 2 and a white for a creature core cleric. Whenever Core Celebrant or another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So 1/4 for 3, not a huge fan. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under my control or this one, I get a life. Okay, if you're the black white life gain deck, this is a cleric, this is life gain. These are all the things that you kind of want for the deck, but there's probably just better cards you can get. This is kind of the C range. You missed. You didn't quite get there. This card's fine in that specific deck. I'm never playing this in my red-white deck. I'm probably never playing this in my blue-white deck. I guess it's a cleric, but whatever. There's better ones. I'm never playing this in my green-white deck. I'm only really playing this in the black-white deck. So yeah, C for Core Celebrant. Up next is Legion Angel. Legion Angel is 2 white for a creature angel warrior at rare. It's a 4/3 flyer. When Legion Angel enters the battlefield, you may reveal a card you own named Legion Angel from outside the game and put it into your hand. Let's get this out of the way. We're talking draft. Maybe once you're going to draft 2 of these. Maybe once. If you do this twice, let me know. In your entire career, let me know. But it's a 4/3 flyer for 4. That's good. That's quite good. That's quite good. That is like a strong C+. Strong C+. Maybe even B-, just because that is very powerful effects. But if you do ever draft a second one, you do have a little bit of a discussion with yourself. Do you take that second one and do you put it in your main deck, meaning that you have now doubled your chances of finding one of them? Or do you put that other one in the sideboard? Because then if you do draw the one in your deck, it's a 4/3 for 4 flyer that draws a copy of itself, which is nutty. I think you do put the second one in your sideboard, I think. Just because of the sheer power of that. So that's going to be what I'm going to do. If I come across that one time that I draft 2 of these, I'm going to put one in the sideboard and I'm going to keep one in the deck. But of course, like I said, we're talking about 2 specific rares. It's not going to happen. This is a 4/3 flyer for 4, 99% of the time, and that's a strong C+. Up next is Luminarc Aspirant. Luminarc Aspirant is 1 and a white for a creature human cleric at rare. It's a 1/1. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. 1/1 for 2, not a big fan, but every single turn I get to put a counter on something, whether it be herself or something else. This seems like a card that could get out of control, but again, it's one of those cards that you need to have on turn 2. On turn 10, this card is still potentially good. It's less good because you're going to put that counter on hopefully a flyer or a trampler or something that's already big. And it is beginning of combat. It's not upkeep, which means you do, assuming you play this on main phase 1, get to put a counter on something. But it obviously lowers in impact the later in the game that you draw this. I think the effect is pretty strong. I think the effect is quite strong if you do get it early. This reminds me of the green-blue dual card enchantment from Rivals of Ixalan, sort of, that put a counter on something every turn, but then eventually also went nuts with other stuff. So I think this is stronger than a C+. I think this is in the B- range. I think this is a very strong card, but it goes down in value. So I'm going to go B- on Luminarc Aspirant to start. It's a rare that I'm not like jumping up and down because I opened it up, but I think it'll be a totally fine card. So let's go B- for Luminarc Aspirant to start. Up next is Mckindy Ox. Mckindy Ox is 4 and a white for a creature Ox at common. It's a 4/4 with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, tap target creature an opponent controls. 5 mana 4/4 non-human, so it doesn't have a class, and I get to tap a creature when I put a land down. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. Like, if you are being aggressive, tapping a creature on your turn is a nice little bonus just for popping down a creature, but it's a 5-drop. And I don't know the speed of this format yet, but I don't know if you're really wanting to play 5-drops all that much. It's a 4/4. At least this isn't like a 2/4, which Oxes frequently are. But I think this is still around like a C-. I think I'm not super wanting to play this, but you could. So C- for Mckindy Ox. Up next is Mckindy Stampede. Mckindy Stampede is 3 white for a sorcery at uncommon. Creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn, so it is Overwhelm, but in white instead of green. And on the backside, it is a tapped white land. So again, this is one of those cards that I don't have a grade for exactly. You probably pick this exceptionally highly, and you put it in every deck, because when it's a plains, it's the plains that you want. And when you have a wide board and you can cast this, that's great. And it doesn't even have to be a wide board. Maybe you top deck this and you have like the one creature that will get through and the +2/+2 will do it. You play this card every single time that you have it. Like, I can't grade these double-faced cards because they defy grades. It's a very high pick. You're going to play it 100% of the time. It's not an A. It's an A if we're only using grades, and this is where I guess grades fall apart. It's an A if our grades are where do you pick it. It's an A in versatility, but in any specific game, it's kind of like a C, I guess. So I don't know exactly how to give a grade to these cards. Again, I wish I could just do away with grades. So pick this highly, play it in every single white deck. And this will be an interesting one where I think a lot of the time you're playing it as a land. I think you're playing this as a land a lot of the time. And then when you play it as a spell, it's going to be really good. But I don't think you're holding on to this unless you are explicitly a go wide deck. I think you're playing this as a land as soon as you need it. So yeah, pick it highly. I give this card a Q17. Up next is Maul of the Skyclaves. Maul of the Skyclaves is 2 and a white for an artifact equipment at rare. When Maul of the Skyclaves enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control, so it's got the auto equip. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has flying and first strike. Equip 2 white. So again, we have the auto equip, so it's basically an aura that if it falls off, you can re-equip it. And +2/+2 flying first strike is a lot. Like, there's a reason this is rare. This is a very good piece of equipment. But again, like we talked about, the equipment deck is red-white. Here's our white equipment, as far as I know, unless one of the 3 white cards left to be revealed is actually an equipment. Like, you're not going off on equipment, but this is a very good card. It's very much like Dub, except it also adds flying to it. I'm never going to go that high for an aura. Like, we're not talking A range here. We are talking in the B range. I think it's probably in like the B range for me. It's going to win a lot of combats, and it does dodge the Dub problem, where if the creature does die, if the creature does get bounced, if it does get capture sphered or whatever, you can just re-equip this for a cost, a real cost. 2 white is not something that you're just casually doing while also dropping, a 5-drop or something. But I think that is a big bonus here. So I'm going to go for a B on Maul of the Skyclaves. Up next is Mesa Lynx. Mesa Lynx is a 1 and a white for a creature cat at common. It's a 2/1. As long as it's not your turn, Mesa Lynx gets +0/+2. It's a 2/1 for 2. I'm not super excited to play pikers. And when it's not my turn, so when I'm not attacking with my piker, it's a 2/3. Okay. I guess that's a bit of versatility. That makes the piker a little bit better. If I can't attack with it, it blocks slightly better. But it doesn't have class because it's not a humanoid. It's not a rogue or a wizard or anything. So this is like a C-. I think you cut this as much as possible. Again, a piker's not awful. If you have to play a 2-drop, you can play it. Don't feel bad about playing this. But I think you look to cut this when you can. So C- for Mesa Lynx. Up next is Nihiri's Binding. Nihiri's Binding is 1 white for an enchantment aura at common. Enchant creature or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. It's a rest. It's a rest that can also hit planeswalkers, which in limited we don't care. It's a rest slightly harder to cast because it's 1 white instead of 2 and a white. But this is a very high pick. This is like an A- for me. Again, if you're new to my grading systems, I give premium removal A's, A- for Nihiri's Binding. You're going to first pick this out of a lot of packs. Also, it's common. It's common. Arrest has been uncommon for a while. This is common removal. I'm excited about that. Up next is Ondu Inversion. Ondu Inversion is 6 white for a sorcery at rare. Destroy all non-land permanents. It's also a tapped white land. This again is one of those double face cards where you're going to pick it very highly. It's an 8-drop. You are going to play this as the land a lot, like 90% of the time. But then sometimes it's going to be late in the game. You have flooded out a bit. You've got 8 mana. You need to Wrath. Here's your Wrath. Yeah, so this is another card where I do not know what grade you are supposed to give this. You pick this very highly, probably first pick in every pack that it's in, and then you play it as a land 90% of the time, but sometimes it's going to be an amazing Wrath. So this is another of those cards where I'm like, I don't know, it's an AQ 73 is my grade. Because I don't know how grades work on these cards exactly. And it's that problem of I don't know if grades are really the pick order, or if they're how good they are in your hand, or if they're how good you are in any game. But yeah, this is a great card. You're going to pick it very highly. It's an A. It's in the A range. It's specifically an AQ 17, I guess. Very good. Don't sleep on these dual face cards. You should probably play every single one in your color that you get. I should also mention there is one of these in every pack. Every pack has a dual-faced land card. It's not going to be in its own specific slot. It'll be like War of the Spark, where, you know, one of your uncommons is a dual-faced land, or your rare is a dual-faced land. You're not going to get multiples. There's not a specific slot for it. You are just going to always have one show up because of the way they do collation. But yeah, I think this is very solid. I think you first pick it every time. Up next is Paired Tactician. Paired Tactician is 2 and a white for a creature human warrior at uncommon. It's a 3/2. Whenever Paired Tactician and at least one other warrior attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on Paired Tactician. So this is like Makeshift Battalion, except instead of having to attack with 2 other creatures, you have to attack with 1 specific other creature. If you're in red-white, you probably have a whole bunch of warriors, since that's kind of what red-white's thing is. Even if you're just in white, there's a chance of you having other warriors. So I think this is a C+. I think this is a creature that I play every time. I'm not excited about it. If I have a ludicrous amount of good cards, it gets cut. But I think this defaults in the main board every time. So C+ for Paired Tactician. Not exciting, but a card you're going to play in most white decks, I believe. Up next is Practiced Tactics. Practiced Tactics is a single white mana for an instant at common. Choose target attacking or blocking creature. Practiced Tactics deals damage to that creature equal to twice the number of creatures in your party. So here is Outflank, right? Here is the instant speed white spell that only works in combat. There's a problem here, that this may be deal 0 damage. Hopefully that's unlikely, but it might be deal 0 damage. You could have a Mesa Lynx down, and whereas Outflank would deal a damage, this still deals 0. That said, build your decks properly, right? Build your decks properly. This is probably going to be a shock a vast amount of the time, and sometimes you'll be lucky to get 4 damage. Perhaps even 6. Getting 8 out of this, I think, is going to be tricky. So yeah, this is not a card that I want to load up on. I'll play as many Nihiri's Bindings as I can get my hand on. But Practice Tactics, I maybe want 1. Maybe. So yeah, I think this is fine. I think this is like the C+ range. I'm not going to put it into the B range just because there is that variability of sometimes it's just not going to do the thing that it needs to do. So yeah, C+ for Practice Tactics. Up next is Prowling Felidar. Prowling Felidar is 3 and a white for a creature cat beast at common. It's a 2/3 with vigilance. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Prowling Felidar. This is tricky. This is tricky. So on turn 5, you get a 3/4 for 4 with vigilance. That's not bad. and then it'll grow a few more times. I think the fact that this is 4 mana holds it back a fair bit, because this is not fledgling whatever it was, the 2 mana bird griffin thing. This is coming down a little bit late in the game. So I don't think I'm going to go to the B range for this, but I think we can be pretty happy with a C+. Green-white is going to be the landfall deck. If you can get multiple triggers, if you can somehow ensure that you're getting landfall late into the game, it'll be pretty decent. The fact that it's common means that you could load up on these. Maybe being green-white, you don't care about party that much, so the fact that it doesn't have class doesn't affect it too much, but I don't think I'm going to go higher than a C+ on this, just because it is a bad top deck late in the game, and it's not going to grow quite as much as like a 2-drop would. So yeah, C+ for Prowling Felidar. Up next is Resolute Strike. Resolute Strike is a single white mana for an instant at common. Target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If it's a warrior, you may attach an equipment you control to it. Instant speed equip. But again, there's not that much equipment in the set, and most of it's uncommon, so don't get too excited here. I think it's just +2/+2 for a single white mana. This is a combat trick that if you have a spot, sure, I guess, but try not to play them. They're just not going to help you at that much. C- for Resolute Strike. Up next is Seagate Banneret. Seagate Banneret is a single white mana for a creature core warrior at common. It's a 1/2 with 4 and a white. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. That's a mana sink. That's a mana sink late in the game. Antheming your team for 5 mana. Double Antheming for 10 mana if you get there. It's a warrior. Like, there's enough going on here that I'm not going to give this a C-. I don't think. Maybe I am. Maybe it is still just a C-. Obviously, if you're in the red-white warriors deck, this is a relevant creature type with a mana sink effect that you want. You are going to be playing more lands in this format because of landfall and things like that. I think this might actually be a C. I think this might be a C in a number of white decks. But again, we're arguing between a C or a C- here. It's a card that you're not going out of your way to get, and you can find better cards than this, but I think you'll play this and be pretty okay with it because the threat of activation is pretty high. Up next is Sajiri Shelter. Sajiri Shelter is 1 and a white for an instant at uncommon. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. It's also a tapped white land. Yeah, this is great. This is great. This is Feat of Resistance without the counter, unfortunately, or the Theros one, whose name I forgot, and I love it, God's Willing, without the Scry. This is totally solid, because this, again, is one of those cards where, uh-oh, I need a land. Cool, play the land. Or, late in the game, I've got this combat trick. Or, a landfall. Look at that, there's so much utility out of these. They defy grades. I don't know what grade to give to this card. Again, I think it's a very high pick. I think it's one of the top picks in most packs that it's in. I'm not taking this one over. I'm not taking any of them over a bomb, I don't think. Whether you take them over removal, I think, is a very, very tricky question. So this is going to get an S47 from me as a grade. It's a very, very high pick. You should pick this very, very highly. You should play it constantly. And this is one where I think you play it as a land. Like, you count this as a land in your deck, and then when it's not a land, cool, it's going to be good. Up next is Shepherd of Heroes. Shepherd of Heroes is 4 and a white for a creature angel cleric at common. It's a 3/4 flyer. When Shepherd of Heroes enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life for each creature in your party. It's a 3/4 flyer for 5. We've seen those, Shining Aerosaur and Prized Griffin and such, and they've always been kind of just okay in limited. This one will gain you 2 life, and perhaps it will gain you more. It's a cleric, which means if you're in black-white, it's a cleric, it's gaining life, it's doing all of those black-white things. So I think in black-white, this is like a C+, and I think in other archetypes, this is like a C. So, and a C that you want one of. You probably don't want to load up on these. You probably never really want your second one. So I'm going to go with this as like a C. Up next is Skyclave Apparition. Skyclave Apparition is 1 white for a creature core spirit. At rare, it's a 2/2. When Skyclave Apparition enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target non-land, non-token permanent you don't control with converted mana cost 4 or less. When Skyclave Apparition leaves the battlefield, the exiled card's owner creates an XX blue illusion creature token, where X is the converted mana cost of the exiled card. I don't know about this card. It is kind of like Banisher Priest, but it's by definition probably not getting rid of a bomb, because it's getting 4 or less. So it's getting a 4-drop or a 3-drop or a 2-drop or a 1-drop. And then if your opponent kills this, they get back potentially something better. Like if we get rid of their 4 mana 3/3, they get back a 4/4. It can get other permanents, but then again, if they kill this, they get back a 4/4 or a 3/3. So it's one of those cards that I don't know about. Like the upside, if we get rid of the second paragraph here, this is like a B-, right? It's getting rid of probably not a bomb, but it's getting rid of something decent. But when we add that second thing in, it makes me hesitate. I guess it's similar to the Ixalan one that gave them a 3/3 dinosaur. But the trick there is that was an enchantment. They had to have their sideboard enchantment hate in to get their 3/3 dinosaur. This is just a creature. This is a 2/2. This dies. This dies really, 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 really hard. So yeah. I don't know. I think this is like a C+. And I think it could even go lower. And I don't think it goes much higher. Just because the risk of getting blown out with this is high. So I'm going to go C+ on Skyclave Apparition. I'll keep an eye on it. I think people are going to overrate it to start. And I think there's a lot of blowout potential here. So C+ for Skyclave Apparition, but I'm going to keep a close eye on it. Up next is Skyclave Cleric. Skyclave Cleric is 1 white for a creature core cleric at uncommon. It's a 1/3. When Skyclave Cleric enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. It's also a land. It's also a land. I almost didn't talk about that. This is not that good of a card if you're just playing the creature. It's a cleric. It gains life. It'll do what you need in the black-white deck. Fine enough. You'll probably always play this creature in the black-white deck and be happy with it as like a C+. But it's a land. It's a land. If you're playing white, you put this in your deck. If you're not playing black-white, it's a land a lot of the time. But when you want a creature, there you go. It's a creature. So again, this defies grades. It's a high pick. It's not over bombs. I don't think this one's over removal, but it's a high pick. Yeah, it's the best 26th card ever. And you get to play it as a 26th card because it's a land drop. Like, you just get to put this in your deck. It's free to play this card. So yeah, it defies grades. It's like a W6. I can't grade these cards. Grades don't work for these cards. Pick them highly. Don't underrate any of these. Up next is Squad Commander. Squad Commander is 3 white for a creature core warrior at rare. It's a 3/3. When Squad Commander enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white core warrior creature token for each creature in your party. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible until end of turn. So it's a 3/3 for 4 that will make you a 1/1. So it's a 4/4 for 4. That's cool. That's fine. Perhaps it makes us 2 1/1s, 3 1/1s, or 4 1/1s. Again, I suspect that 2 1/1s is about the average ceiling. 3 or 4 will be a very nice to have. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, which you're not gonna, it does some very good stuff. If you pull off the full party, this is nutty, right? Like, this is one of those cards where somebody rolls the dice, they full party up on turn 4 or 5, and it's almost impossible to win, right? Like, this is like pack leader. Giving your creatures indestructible and a little bit of a power boost is nutty. So yeah, I'll have to see what full party looks like. I do suspect full party is going to be very difficult to reliably pull off, especially because these cards that require full party, I kill your cleric. I kill the cleric that you have like one of in your deck or two of. There goes your full party for the rest of the game. So suddenly this card drops to being a vanilla 3/3. So we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be very swingy. I think it's going to be very snowbally. Luckily, this card's floor is like a very strong C+. And the fact that it goes higher, I think means this is like a B-. So B- for Squad Commander. Don't live in Magical Christmas Land, though. Up next is Smite the Monstrous. Smite the Monstrous is 3 and a white for an instant at common. Destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. This is almost always a sideboard card. I haven't taken a quick look at the power and toughness of creatures just yet, but I suspect this is a card that you simply put in your sideboard. When you find out that you're against big things, put it in out of the sideboard. This is a D+. Up next is Tazeem Raptor. Tazeem Raptor is 2 and a white for a creature bird at common. It's a 2/2 flyer. When Tazeem Raptor enters the battlefield, you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. This is a great card for the green-white landfall deck. 2/2 flyer, and you get to bounce that land back. And so you get to replay a land for landfall. You get to decide whether or not you want to cast your Skyclave Cleric or replay your Skyclave Basilica. This is going to be a very good card, and it's a 2/2 flyer for 3 at that. It's a Windrake. I like this card quite a bit. I think it's going to be one of the better white commons. Obviously, the removal and stuff are going to overshadow it, but I think this is actually going to be one of the better white commons. I think I go up to B- for this card. I think under the assumption that you have dual-faced lands, under the assumption that you have landfall triggers, this is a B-. I think this card's going to be way better than some people are going to start out rating it. Don't underrate this card. I think it's going to be very, very good. Up next is Tazri, Beacon of Unity. Tazri of Beacon of Unity is 4 and a white for a legendary creature human warrior at Mythic. It's a 4/6. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature in your party. So notably, this one doesn't count itself, because this one's not in your party when you cast it. Pay 2 or a blue, 2 or a black, 2 or a red, 2 or a green. Look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 cleric, rogue, warrior, wizard, and or ally cards. There's no ally cards in the set. From among them, and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Tazri's fine. It's a 4/6 for 5. Probably going to be a 4/6 for 4. Maybe a 4/6 for 3. And anything lower than that, cool, you got there. But I'm not gonna up the grade for those niche cases where you have 3 or 4 party members down. Those are a lot of stats. Those are a lot of stats for 4 mana. Those are a ton of stats for 3 mana, 2, 1. All of those are great stats. The ability is trickier. Like, I don't think you're ever really paying blue, black, red, green for this. But I think late in the game, you've got, 6 mana and a blue laying around. Spend that mana. You're spending that mana. You may not find anything. You're only going to put 1 or 2 cards into your hand, but you're using your mana. And if your opponent's not, that's a way to win the game. Using your mana wins games. The person who casts the most spells, the person who spends the most mana, tends to win most games of Magic. So this is just a really nice mana sink. I think this is around a B- range. I don't think I'm going super high on it because it is a vanilla creature for a long part of the game. And then late in the game, it's a mana sink that hopefully draws you cards. It might not. It depends on how many cleric, rogue, warrior, wizard you have in your deck. So I'm not going to go to an A range. I'm not going to go to a B+ range here, but I think it's like a B-, a strong B-, maybe even just straight up a B. Good card. You're going to pick it quite highly. I think I pick premium removal over this though. All right, just a couple more cards left to go here that weren't available when I did the Twitch stream review. They did not change any of my ratings for the cards that we just saw, but we have Allied Assault. Allied Assault is 2 and a white for an instant at uncommon. Up to 2 target creatures get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures in your party. This is a combat trick, but it's uncommon for a reason, because it does target 2 creatures. This is kind of like, I want to say it was called Synchronized Strike. I think it was green. It targeted 2 creatures, gave them +2/+2 or whatever. As long as this is giving +2/+2, this is a combat trick that I will look to put into my deck if I can. higher than I would put in something like a Titanic Growth or some other, little piddly target one creature effect. Because this can do a fair bit. There's no attacking or blocking restriction, so it could be defensive if you need it to be. I think it'll just do some work, so long as you do relatively confidently think that you will have 2 party members. If you have 1, it's still okay, but you need to confidently think that you're going to have 2. So yeah, I think this is still just around like the C range. You're not going to pick this too highly, but you're going to pop it into the deck if you can. Maybe even a C+. Up next is Expedition Healer. Expedition Healer is 1 and a white for a creature core cleric at common. It's a 2/2 with vigilance. Expedition Healer has lifelink as long as you control another cleric. So it's a bear with an upside. A vigilance bear is okay. That probably just pushes up into the C+ range. You'd probably play it most of the time. And it's got that bonus of having lifelink as long as you have another cleric. Being in white, you have a decent chance of having another cleric naturally, regardless of what you're in. And of course, if you're in black-white, not only are you nigh on guaranteed to have a cleric, you're also going to have reasons to want lifelink other than just having lifelink. This is a strong C+. You'll pick it middle of the pack, and you'll always play it. Our final card for today is Pressure Point. Pressure Point is 1 and a white for an instant at common. Tap target creature, draw a card. This is the 3rd time we've seen Pressure Point. This is the 3rd new art, and it's always hitting a dragon. I don't know why. I guess this one's a drake. Whatever. I don't care. This card's awful. You should literally never put this in your deck, ever. It's an F. It's an F. It's an F. You don't want to tap a creature for 1 card. You don't want to draw a card for 1 card. This card has never been good. It's never been playable. There's no reason it's going to be playable here either. Trust me. F for Pressure Point. So that's going to wrap it up for the white set review. White has some interesting looking cards. I need to play that angel, and I need to see what happens with that angel. I think it is probably just flat out good. But yeah, I'm excited to get into Zendikar. The dual face cards are very interesting. Trust me, if you got mildly annoyed at me not knowing how to give a grade to those cards, you're going to get even more annoyed with the rest of the videos. The thing to take away with those cards, though, is that they are all 1st through like 4th or 5th pick. You should pick them very highly. You should play them 100% of the time. The trick is they don't fit into this grade system up here, because some of them are like D's the way that they get played out. But this is where the grade system falls away. This might be the last set review I do with the grade system, because I did a different grade system with Semulin when we did our tag team set review, and I kind of like it, and I think I might adopt it for myself. But that's going to wrap it up for today. Let me know what you think of the set, what you think of the white cards, anything you want to let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you do have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, you can find me over at, this is super out of order, you can find me at twitch.tv/ShamanaLeague, Twitter, Facebook, Patreon. Like, share, subscribe. That was not smooth, but I'll see y'all for the blue set review.